Hi, this is Vicky, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a simple tassel that you can use as a bag charm, a key charm, something like that. You can also use it as a pendant. So I'm going to use a tassel top bead. This one I'm using a 12mm round. We've got a beautiful selection of beads that I'll show you in a little bit that you can use. I've got a size 10 seed bead. I've got a size 8 seed bead, and I've got some 6mm facets. Now what I've done here is I've kept to the sort of the pinky mauvey colour as an overall colour theme, but because this is foiled here, because this has got sort of a silvery accent to it, I've just decided I'm going to use the silver beads as an accent, just to pick it out a little bit, and just some clear facets or clear AB facets, just so that the overall finish isn't too heavy. I've got my size 10 needle, and I've got some Nymo. I'm using about just under 1.5 meters, just about 1.2 meters, and I've tied the keeper bead about 10-15 centimeters from the end. Now you need to leave yourself a reasonable tail thread here. Don't be tempted to leave yourself a teeny little thread, because you're actually going to be able to, you need to be able to hold on to this to be able to finish it off when we get to the other end. The only other thing you're going to need is 2 scraps of paper. Now, because this bead has got quite a reasonably large hole in it here, what we don't want to do is have all of the smaller beads falling inside and blocking the hole, because then we're not going to be able to make the tassel. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the needle through the middle of the one piece of paper. We're going to go through your tassel top, and then we're going to go through a second piece of paper and make a tassel top sandwich. Okay, pull that all the way down to your keeper bead there, so you can see, and that's just going to stop all of the smaller beads dropping into the hole. So I'm going to start by picking up 16 of the pink beads. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 16. And then we're going to pick up a silver, another pink, and a silver. This just gives us an accent at the bottom of the tassel strand. And then the bigger bead, the facet, it's like a weight, so it will just make sure that your tassel hangs nice and straight. So, and then we're going to pick up another silver, and then 3 more pink. Okay, and then we're going to pull those all the way down so they sit up against the paper. Okay, like so. Now we're going to make a little picot bottom on this tassel, so we're just going to ignore those last 3 beads, and we're going to come back up through the others here. Right. Don't be tempted to do this all in one go if you don't want to. You can do it a few beads at a time. You could do everyone individually if you wanted to. And you just need to make sure as you're doing this that you don't end up with any big gaps of thread showing in your tassel strand here. You want your beads to sit nice and neatly next to one another. You don't want it to be too tight. You don't want it to be so tight that your tassel's not going to hang softly. But if you have a look there, you've got a little bit of play, so that's going to hang nice and softly. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to come back through the hole in the paper. Doesn't matter if you need to punch a new one. Through the tassel top bead and out through the paper at the top. Okay, you need to be careful here that you don't catch the thread on the keeper bead. So just make sure you keep that out the way, because if you catch it now, it will be very difficult to remove it when we get to the end of the tassel. Okay, so there we go. Now we're going to make the little loop that we're going to attach the clip to at the top. So we're going to pick up a size 8, and we'll go through this bead every time now. And then we're going to pick up 9 here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. I slide those down to the paper, like so, and then we're going to come back through that silver bead there. Okay, now we've got a bit of a thread, but we'll get rid of this in a sec. You go down through your paper, your tassel, and the paper at the bottom end. What you can do is just make sure that you pull that through so that it sits nicely. You need that one to be nice and tight against the paper on this side. Okay, so now we're ready to make tassel strand 2. So this is exactly the same as tassel strand 1 was. So we're going to pick up 16. 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, and a decorative sequence. Ooh, just the one of those, and one. Then we're going to pick up a facet, another size 8, and 3 more size 10s. And again, pull that all the way down, and you come back up through, leave aside your last 3 beads to make picot. You know, if you wanted to here, essentially you only need to leave 1 bead aside so that you turn in the needle, but the picot does look quite decorative. But if you want something that's a little bit plainer, a little bit simpler, then you can just do a single bead turn at the bottom if you want to. You could do, in one of the other videos I've done with the little beaded beads, you could do that with this, where you put the little, you make the tassel, the beaded bead around the tassel strand. So you just put a size 6 seed bead in on the tassel strand where you wanted it to be, and so you could do something a bit more decorative. That might be a bit much on this little tassel, but if you're doing a bigger tassel, I think that'd look great. So again, we've come through the paper, the tassel top bead and the paper, and we're going to come through the size 8 bead above there, and then we're going to go through all 9 of these beads again. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 6, and oh, there we go, I've only got 8 beads on here, that's why it's not sitting properly. Never mind. And then back through the paper, your top bead and your paper, and going through there. Again, just check you've got no loops where you shouldn't have loops of thread. Here we go. So ready for the next one again. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and one of those through your facet, another size 8, and then the 3 for the bottom. And again, back up through. Oops. Okay, and through the paper, through the bead, through the paper, and come out the top. Just pull. Make sure it's hanging how you want it to. It's quite difficult to show you because I'm using an overhead camera, but you can see they've got a nice drape to them. And around the loops. And again. Oh, just got the thread caught. And down. And all the way back down through. So the method that we're using here is essentially the same method you'd use to make any sort of fringe. If you wanted to do just a flat fringe, you could actually use a piece of ribbon and sew into it across the top and actually make each fringe strand sit parallel to one another so that they're and make like a beaded fringe to go across the edge of a bag or a top or anything like that as well. So there's lots of ways you can use this. It's also essentially the same method that we use for making fringing on things like baubles. So you can use this sort of method with those as well. So we'll come back up through a few there. And pull that there. And come up. Okay. So we've got 3 more strands to do. So I'll just come up. Again, just pull your thread through. Make sure you've got no loops. And come up. And down. And then down through here. Oops. And come up through. And all the way up. And just make sure I've got a loop there, just make sure we get rid of that. And up through the loop again. And back down. So he's going to start to get very, well, not very tight, but it's going to start to get a bit tight as you're going around the top. Just pull the tail of the working thread through there. So just be aware it's quite, you just might need to take a little bit longer and just come through. There we go. And 6, 8, that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 1, and 1, and your facet, and your size 8, and your 3 for the end. And come up through. There we go. You should be getting good at this by now. Okay. And come up. And back up through to the top. Yep. Right, now this, oh, now this is worth seeing. I've just caught the thread around one of the other tassel strands. So just pull back on the loop, pull that strand out of the way. There. And then just make sure that you're not going to catch it on anything. Oops, on the right thread. Give that a pull. There. Okay. So there we go. And where's my needle thread gone? That one. we've got a loop there. Where's that loop come from? Let's have a look. That's actually just that might be one of the last tassel strands. So if we pull this way, there we go, and then pull that way. Okay, so there we go. And that's why it's important to check to see what loops you've got hanging around. So yeah, so this will be the last time you go up through this loop, because when you've made the last tassel strand, you're going to come out just above the paper. You're not going to go through this loop again. Okay, so that down through here and down through there and out. There we go, and one facet left, so one strand to do. So we go 16 again, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 1 there, and the 3. Okay, so this time we're going to come up through the strand here, there we go, all the way up to the top, through the paper, through the bead, through the paper, there, and we're going to come out, oops, yeah, nothing caught. I'm going to come out next to the keeper bead that's there. So what we'll do, we'll take this keeper bead off, there, just undo the knot, and that's why it's important to make sure you don't catch the knot. And then what we're going to do is we're going to tie these two ends together in a double knot. So we're going to go around once, we're going to go around twice, and then you're going to pull that down really tight, so it's going to sit down here next to the paper. And just for good measure, we'll tie another one and pull that down as well. Okay, so now we're going to finish this thread end off. So the best way to do this, is because you've got your double knot, is actually just come back down through your paper and come out underneath there. Now this is where you need to be super careful that you don't undo all your hard work. You're just going to make sure you cut that thread and that thread only. Okay, and we'll take the needle off the thread, put the needle onto the thread from the beginning, sorry, and just thread the needle. And then we're going to do the same thing again. So we're going to come down through the bead. You want to be extra safe. If you just come through your tassel top and then through your paper, you're not going to accidentally catch your tassel strand there. So there we go. We'll clip that off there. And now for my favourite bit of making the tassels, I'm just going to tear this paper away. And tear this paper away. It's like taking the cake off at the hairdressers. And there we go. And there you have a beautiful beaded tassel. And I've got a little plain hook clip here, and if you just put that onto the top, this is actually a little bit fiddly to do, and good strong thumbnails. There we go, and a tassel ready to use however you want to.